the sauce.
Oh, yeah.
So good. Are we live?
Go Taco Bell.
I know.
Beans and rice.
Yes, one day we hope you sponsor us.
Yes. So
Awesome.
we're live.
Yes.
Podcast number 4.
Number 4.
Feels
welcome.
like it's been a while. Just a lot's been going on.
Tons.
And just getting this on the calendar. And then we're going to be taking it on the road next time
Yes,
for number
we
5.
are.
We're going to be heading to Dallas, Texas for our executive meeting. And we'll be bringing in Randy Sondriel for that one. So it should be good.
It's going to be a good one. I'm so excited to just be in the room with him and see where the conversation goes. I feel like we learned a lot from our last conversation, kind of reflecting back. And it was so therapeutic a little bit.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know if it was really for everybody else, but for us to be all in the same room. And as you just think of your career and the people that, make big impact, it's so important. And I love that we still maintain that relationship.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. So many stories. I even that's why we got to the topic of Taco Bell, because when we all used to work together, I used to go Taco Bell all the time. Well, I still do. And the Taco Bell person knew me, my order and everything. And he was so cute. I mean, I was in my 20s. I was young, single, and ready to mingle. And he wrote down...
It was still $3
yes,
for lunch.
Super cheap for a bean burrito, a taco, and nacho. Yeah, like so cheap. Value menu was the value menu. We were just talking about that too. And he literally drew a caricature on my receipt and then put his phone number on there.
Oh.
I know. It was so cute, but I never pursued it. It's like missed opportunities, I guess.
Don't tell Marcus.
I know, I won't tell my husband. Anyways, but I was reflecting back on how therapeutic that was. And one of the other things that came up again and has been kind of resurfacing for me a lot lately is the obsessiveness that we all have, whether it's in our career or personal lives and like our, how we carry ourselves. We're obsessed with our work. We're passionate about it. We're passionate about our quality of work. And the reflection of that work. And, when Derek asked for a reference, they asked for one of the questions they had asked was, can you describe him in one word? Describe him. And I used the word obsessed. But in a positive way, because obsessive can have negative connotations too. But it's like obsessive so much so that it's like, he gets in there and gets out and wants to know the process. And I feel like we're like that too. We're we're obsessed to a certain extent where we're just kind of working through all the possibilities.
I just say it's because we care. And you said that to me the other day because I was like, not in necessarily a funk, but just with some changes with my team and, people being an uncontrollable resource, you try to do everything you can to give them this positive experience. And it's like, you told me, you're like, it's because you care, when I was like, couldn't get over it.
Oh yeah. No, you said, I don't care. I just don't care anymore. I'm just going,
You said bullshit.
Yeah, I said bullshit. It's because you care that you are passionate and obsessed about it. That's so true. Yeah. It's because the moment you don't care, you're not going to do those things. Right.
True.
And we're going to talk about uncontrollable resources, which is one of our favorite one-liners. We deal with people, a lot of people and other organizations, and even ours deal with different products and materials, and they're producing different things. In our world, people are our resources.
Yeah, and construction is a people business. It's relationships. Companies work with us because we're people, and we try to attract talent. And I feel like I'm on this this wave of, on my side of the table, it's we try to get the best talent for the organization, and we're always kind of out there networking and talking to people. And it's I feel like we've captured some really great talent at Royal. And I think my biggest concern, or just as we're growing or looking to scale the organization, is how do you keep those people? And we've talked about it in our second podcast about, high performers and, how they fit in and adjust to the organization. But it's really kind of true. And so it's really been on my mind.
Yeah, it takes work. It takes effort. And it, it takes a lot of curiosity, I think, too, and listening as well. I was listening to something just recently about just change in general, and kind of in my space, when you think of growth and scaling and those kinds of things, I immediately go to like, oh, change. We're changing. We're evolving, or the evolution of evolving. And again, change can have positive and negative depending on, what season or experience you're doing. But they were talking a little bit about it as an apocalypse. When it happens, it's a change. I know, but if you go back, I guess the
doomsday.
Well, that's so funny. That's what people connect it back to. But in reality, apocalypse, if you go back to the Greek word itself, it actually means, in Greek, it means a revolution.
Oh,
and
I do like that word.
That word is, empowering, almost like visionary, right? Almost like there's so much opportunity out there. And if we are able to take change and reframe that to the possibilities, I think that is where the crux of it is, like the shift is going to happen, right?
And that's inspiring.
That is so inspiring. It is so inspiring. So, a part of that too was the conversation led to like the loops that we kind of encounter in our conversations, and as we're obsessing about things, and again thinking about our people and what they're experiencing and how we can continue to support them. Helping them out of those loops are super important, because in our roles, personal or professionally, we find ourselves in these situations when we replay like situations. I don't know about you, but I literally walk around the house like processing sometimes a little bit too much. My husband's like, you're talking to yourself. I'm like, I know.
I do it while I clean and while I drive.
Exactly. I do the same thing. And I'm like, by the time I'm telling someone something, they're like, well, have you thought that through? And I'm like, absolutely. I thought about it like 20 million times forwards and backwards. And this is where, and different outcomes. And this is where I came to. But they were talking about it in connection to finding strategies outside of the loop and understanding when you are in that loop. And there are signals and triggers to that loop process. And if you find yourself in that loop and you're coming to the same conclusion and you're repeating that pattern or that cycle, ask yourself sense what you're feeling, because if you're feeling anxiousness or anger or like those types of behaviors, you may be in a not so positive loop, right? But if you're feeling excited and there's happiness around this loop, that's a positive, loop. And so if you find yourself in that negative vibe type loop, pause and ask yourself the question as to like, if you can, right? But once you've sensed that, is identifying not so much the problem, but more like, why are you feeling that way? For me, it's like, potentially like a frustration of like, I have to like pause and say, okay, why do I feel this way? And I feel this way because I care about people. I care about my work. I care about my team. I care about the processes that I'm implementing, how they impact others. And I start going down that avenue, right? And then you start seeing all of the possibilities versus just that one issue that I'm, currently dealing with, right? And it's, it lifts your head up and you're like, oh, the weight of that one issue isn't as grand as everything else.
I always tell myself that too. Sometimes when I get into a loop, or if it's just that week, you have days where it just feels like everything's kind of crashing down, or I always kind of just reflect on like, you always get past it. You look back at things where you just worry so much about the outcome of something and how you can control it or not control it, and really worrying about it. So I try to kind of go back of being like, we've been here before. I've dealt with this before. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just, maturity and being in a role, longer periods of time than maybe your team.
Right.
And just knowing that you've been there, you've done that, and you kind of get past it. But there's still its challenges. I've been thinking, as we bring in new people and if they're in leadership roles, like how they adjust to an organization, based off of process and procedures, their own role, who they're reporting to, and the culture of the company. And, how do they settle in to make an impact to the team, especially when they're in leadership roles? And then what do we do from, a people perspective to assist them with that. And it kind of takes more than just us.
Oh my gosh. It's a team effort.
It's executive level. It's, C-suite level on how they really integrate into the organization. Absolutely. I know we do a lot of outward mindset training, and you've been like, we need to have this much sooner as people are coming on board.
Yeah, no, that's so spot on. It's almost like we're trying to find that balance that allows people to continue to be themselves, yet assimilate to our organization, right? Because we've worked so hard to get it to where it is today, and maintaining that consistency and honoring that culture, right? And being able to share that with people, like this is our expectation, right? And not everyone has experienced that. Yeah, and that kind of goes back to that to that point. It got me thinking when you said about those challenges and things that you've experienced and has helped you navigate through those loops, and even just as you're expressing the onboarding of leadership and stuff like that, it reminded me of we have these frameworks in our mind of how we handle things and how we experience things or have experienced things based off of our previous experience. So then we react to that based off of our experiences, and those are patterns. And so we too have to look at, okay, the way I handle things isn't always the way you're going to handle things either.
Or your team.
Or your team. Yeah. And so you constantly, even though you have a system and a process for onboarding or, relaying information or communicating, you constantly have to revisit it to say, okay, this is a new person. And how do we need to adjust it to ensure
how people receive information or how they adjust in, for sure. We were, as a group, it was Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yeah.
I actually love that book.
I know you said that.
I think it resonates with me because as a person, I love hosting people. I love entertaining. I'm always thinking of different parties to entertain my friends. And that's just kind of my little hobby at home. But it does kind of pertain to work as well, because we try to give people a great experience, chatting with us, to even consider our company as an opportunity. And then, we onboard them. And so I always want them to have this great onboarding experience where they feel welcome, they feel a part of the team right away, and that they, they appreciate, the experience that they've had. And so tailoring a lot of their onboarding to their group and to the company culture and all of that. But that book really just kind of dives in. I loved it because it was story-based. It was more the restaurant business, but you can really take a lot of the tactics and kind of tie them to any company, really, and how you give people this great experience. And I just really enjoyed it. I really it's one I plan to do a kind of a book club with my own team, because they're so much a part of people's experiences. They're coming in from the time that we reach out to the time that they onboard. Right. And your team really takes that 30, 60, 90 day to the next level. So I feel like we've got a better pulse on those that are kind of within those first 90 days.
Right. I completely love the experience you guys have created, and people talk about that consistently about, the onboarding process and how they felt, right? We were talking about this too, about the vibe. Yeah. It is, it truly is, when we think about even, if we're going to dare to say the culture, right? The culture, and there's language around it and all that different stuff. But when you think about the language, and yes, there is how we, there's an equation to it for every organization. And if you don't know it, figure it out, because that's important. Yeah. But we know ours. And, with that comes a vibe, right? And when it goes to your point of experience and that hospitality aspect, when you enter a room and how you immediately feel.
Oh yeah. If you don't feel welcome, you're like, see ya.
I know. Goodbye. Oh my gosh, that was awkward or super tense. When you could cut a room with a knife and it's so awkward, that is truly part of the experience, right? And there is that science that says that when you enter, that we feed off of each other, our neurons connect, right? So I can sense when you're feeling anxious or you're upset. And
although I don't know that everybody feels that, and I've been thinking about that a lot. Is that the emotional IQ?
It
totally is, and it's just I think about that because there's people that are on my team where it's they can almost feel the room, and I can feel emotion. people don't necessarily even have to talk. And, we always have the joke of like, if you raise your eyebrows or if you look at me funny, like I know exactly what you're thinking, but because we've known each other for so long.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like I can generally feel people like if they're feeling anxious or nervous, and it could be why, in general, we've been pretty good about, how we interview people and getting them to feel comfortable. So that way they have a conversation. Right. But, you see it just as people are kind of settling in. But it kind of goes to that, going back to that book, it's just Unreasonable Hospitality was not everybody understands that. And I think that's where, I guess from a talent
You're right.
perspective.
That's what he said. I mean, that's what the book's all about.
Yeah.
It was like literally, it took even him a while to go through that process to understand his why of like, what is he?
But some hiring managers don't, get it. And it's like, so that's kind of, challenges of ensuring that everything's consistent across the board and across, every office.
Right.
So just been on my mind.
Just a little
Uncontrollable resources.
Just a little bit. We're totally dumping today. So we thought
it would be. We're like, what should our topic be today? And it was like, I don't know. Let's just go around in circles and see where this takes us.
I know. So we apologize for those who are super
wanting to learn something today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we hope you do, right?
Yes. Maybe a few book recommendations.
Exactly. This is our, we were exactly chatting about this, about what are we going to talk about? And we've experienced so much over a short period of time, and there was so much we wanted to capture. So we figured today would be a great day to just dump. Like, let's just talk. And
we've been talking a lot too. Like there's been so many different things that have just been kind of coming around. We've had, certain meetings, and just, things happening.
Personally, you traveled, you've gone out to did the conference, and you did all this different stuff. Yes. So, I mean, what did you guys talk about there?
So we did AI, and it wasn't, we weren't necessarily trying to sell the company that we're utilizing. We kind of went through our journey of like, hey, here's what we want to try and automate. And so Courtney and I, we went to the LEAP TA conference and had a chance to speak to other, leaders in our industry. And it's cool because it's all construction. So, and we get to see a lot of the same people over and over. I've been to a few of the conferences, but talked about, our journey was that we really want to automate the sourcing and the campaigns that we get out to candidates. And that way we could spend more time with them was really kind of the ultimate outcome. And so we dove into a bunch of different products and companies that provide what they call AI. And I always hate AI is like this buzzword, people use it, and I'm like, well, but what is it actually doing? Right. And so we probably demoed 15 or so or more programs just to kind of see what people had out there. And we landed on Pen, which has been a cool product for us. It's been like a nice ad.
Pen,
P-I-N.
P-I-N.
Smaller organization. And actually, we've been listening to a podcast called the Elite Recruiters Podcast. And they always bring on people that are in the recruiting industry, but it's not necessarily pertaining to construction. It's actually probably more third-party agency type recruiting and people that own their own companies. But a lot of times they're on the forefront of technology and what's going on. And, they're really about relationship building. We're in-house. They're, having to get into companies and really sell their brand. And so, it was cool. We went over it and went into details of how it made us faster and some of the metrics and, how we've been able to kind of keep our team lean because of it. And it was cool. And then, there was other topics and stuff, but we got to share that and need to call Penn and see how many referrals I got.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, AI's been great for us too. In a sense, we've built an in-house environment for our HR services.
So cool.
And it is
so
super
proud of you
cool.
for doing that.
Thanks. I know. Who thought? HR and IT?
I know.
Look at us.
But I guess if you go back to it, it's like last year we were kind of, given this task of what's AI, how does AI affect our groups? Right. And we kind of took the bull by the horns and we're like, let's see what it was super uncomfortable. And it was like,
oh my gosh.
What is it? Get uncomfortable or get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Totally. Yes.
That was me.
Everything was just going over my head. I was like what?
Code.
Huh?
Like I was going over books. And I'm like,
excuse me, can you draw that? Same experience. I think share the same method where we'll just try something and throw it on the wall and see if it sticks. If it doesn't, we'll try something else, right?
Some people probably cringe.
Oh my gosh.
Hearing you say that.
Like, I know.
No, have a process.
Yeah. My team cringes sometimes.
Well, it's kind of like goes back to this of like, what's your plan? We don't have a plan. We're just going to do it.
Yeah, we're just going to go see if it works out. Here we are, episode 4. Right? We're still here. Unprepared.
Whether you like it or not.
Also, we were talking about that today about just how we're forced preparers. We have zero detail in us, and but we're detailed people because we're forced.
Practiced for so long. That goes back to Derek for sure.
I know, absolutely. Yeah, it's that muscle. Like you got to keep practicing. Yeah, you got to keep working it out because the moment you let it go, it's like whoop, out the door. Like we're squirrel onto the next thing, and it does definitely take the time and energy to get ready and be prepared. And have that care and that passion, obsessiveness of your work. And,
I over prepare. Sometimes I over prepare. So if people can review my agenda and my stuff ahead of time, it cuts out some of the meeting because you've already read it.
Well, that was all I got.
And I'll say I have been so intentional of really trying to get good with metrics and numbers and graphs and, AI, ChatGPT or Copilot has been huge for that, especially until we get really our applicant tracking system working where we have good dashboards.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting. But I think that over preparing, I'm always surprised when people just come in.
Oh, we were talking about
with
this.
no.
I'm sorry, this is so annoying. Can you figure out a way to turn that off?
No notepad, or they come in with a notepad, but no agenda. I don't know. I'm just really about agendas. One, I think because people have the expectation. They know how the meeting's going to go. They know when it's going to be finished.
Right.
They know what they need to come prepared for.
Yeah.
And then there's that accountability piece.
Totally.
And I'm always kind of back to the accountability side of of that. But I'm always kind of surprised that it's not in people's nature.
Right. And respectful of their time.
Yeah.
This is an intentional meeting. We're not setting up a meeting to just meet. I don't really want to meet. I
can see the frustration in your face.
I know. It's just if I'm going to meet with you, I'm going to use your time wisely.
For sure.
And I would ask the same back.
Yeah.
Right. And or be prepared. I find myself, I would think I was reflecting back on that, the meetings I've been showing up and those who have been female and who set them up who are female and those who set them up that are male. And more often than not, the females come prepared with agenda, scheduling, thought through a couple of other things. Sure, it may not be perfect, but there's definitely thought behind it. I'm not saying that the males didn't put thought behind it, but definitely doesn't come with an agenda, that's for sure. At least the ones I've experienced. And so it's just been an interesting observation. And, it's interesting you highlighted that right now. And it has to do, I think, too, with patterns. And you were talking about data right now, and I really do think that it does tell a story.
Yeah.
It does tell you a story if you allow it to go back and review and see what it is actually trying to tell you or give you a point of reference on something to explore further. And, I find that important because it helps you separate the facts from, the emotion, right?
Yeah.
Because it gives you those data points.
Oh, for sure. You can see how your team's performing. You can, just even seeing our hiring numbers for the year and, what's onboarding versus recruited. And it's, it's been huge, but it was, again, outside my comfort zone. I've always been able to kind of pull reports and share stuff, but you can really dive into, why are people leaving or why,
Are you using AI? Is that what the pin is? Are you using AI for the reporting too or no?
Yes.
Oh, so it is?
So I use Copilot. It's, again, I think once we get more of our applicant tracking system set up, we've got a dashboard and our systems are talking to each other. Yeah. It'll be different, but right now it's pulling just our onboarding numbers and then, what recruiter was working on it, what was the time to fill. And then we basically taking that Excel spreadsheet, dumping it into Copilot and then starting to create reports and graphs. So it's like having kind of an admin assistant.
That's neat.
Just kind of, messing with the analytics, and you look at it and then you're like, oh, well, how many in this region have we hired and how many have been field versus operations?
Right.
So you can kind of start to see are we getting too heavy in the office and, why aren't we hiring for field? And actually one of the data points that I'll go over later on this week at our meeting is just from January to March, it showed an uptick in field hiring and that it's starting to show more journeyman PT. And it's like, okay, cool. That means that we're really starting to bill our work. And so it just kind of helps me understand the business a little bit more.
Right.
I can talk, intelligently to our managers on what we're
no,
doing.
it just has the backup that you
Yes.
need to support what you're going to share.
Yeah. But I mean, it really I would say, who we report to at Carrie, it's like your analytics, your data. And so I'd feel like the last couple of years, it's really been pushed on us.
For sure. Yeah. Would you, because we've been lucky enough to work for people, and I don't know if where you worked before had this similar type of manager, but did, and we could totally delete that name, sorry. I don't know if when your previous supervisors or managers or leaders had that same personality trait, the obsessiveness, the detail, the level of auditing that our managers, that we've both had similar managers currently and then previously with Derek, both are very obsessive. They're, and I mean in a positive way, like they audit, details are important, those kinds of things. So
yeah, my last employer prior to Royal, for sure, I would come prepared with a full agenda. And a lot of that was, just back from our time at, the first company we were with, where it was like coming fully prepared. Yeah. And then I think getting into a rhythm of seeing that. And then we were able to kind of see like, if we were having some retention issues, like what was the reasons for turnover? What were, are some of the managers struggling to, onboard and get people up to speed? Are we hiring the wrong people?
Right.
And so we really kind of dove into a lot of the metrics there. I would say more surface level. They weren't like, okay, from this month to this month, we were hiring more field versus office and getting into that. But it was, I would say we dove into a lot of that to kind of see, do we have managers that need more training in managing larger teams as we were growing? So.
Right. Oh, very cool.
And so it did help when I came here to be able to provide that. But, even still, like so I'm getting on board and, our systems, we're still maybe a little clunky. It's hard to, where do you pull that information? So. And it was kind of going back down, like having to kind of dive back down and kind of learn it myself before having my team really kind of
oh my gosh,
get
that's
into it.
The other thing I think that we, or I guess we experience, and we notice some experience, maybe lack thereof, is the trust and verify component of like their work, right? So there's some that will assign and then let them do the work and trust that they are just taking care of it. And then there's others that control the whole process all the way through, right? And then there's those that can find the balance of being able to trust that they're going to be able to follow through with their items and find a way to verify that has been completed. And I think that's like the sweet spot of being able to get into the weeds, but then get back out because the organization needs you.
We talk about that a lot, where it's when people go in from individual contributor to manager of how they balance that, especially if they're going from a peer level where they were their peers and then moving into a manager role where they were overseeing them. Can be a difficult task. And I know we have leadership cohort groups that we do that I think provide a lot of tactical, processes to help them through that. But those, we only do those a couple times a year and stuff, but those are pretty important.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know what to do with my hands today. Like, I just realized I did this for a moment.
I fidget under the table.
I think I just scratched my leg. Sorry. It's just kind of odd. I'm spiraling today.
It's okay.
Since we're on the topic of uncontrollable resources and people being
spiraling.
And spiraling too. And uncontrollable resources, is people for us. We don't know if they're going to show up. We don't know how they're going to show up. We don't know, what personality is going to show up. I have this thing, and I think I told you this already, where, there's those posts that people post that's saying, oh, your company owes you this, and if your company's doing this, they owe you this, and you should demand for this. All aside from basic human needs. I'm not saying treat people respectfully. That's not what I'm talking about.
Give them a good place to work.
Yes,
good environment.
Exactly. Yes, safe, psychological safety, all of this stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about this other little stuff like, if they demand you to work from home or directly to come into work instead of working from those kinds of things. I want to do a post where it's like the companies that are saying, if you can't meet these expectations, go find somewhere else to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's not enough posts about that.
Right.
And I'm saying that very in a kind way, because if you don't know as a person what you want for yourself,
Yeah.
you know, you have more agency and control in where you work than you actually realize.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? And it's hard to change an organization, it being one person,
Yeah.
right? And unless you're up for the fight, then let's stick with it and keep going, or be okay with the
Understand how the leadership operates there to see
Right.
if that fits in with your core values and what you're looking for.
100%. But you got to understand what those core values are for you, right? And
Yeah, what are your
it's-
non-negotiables?
what are your personal non-negotiables? Exactly. So that way you can just be like, no, this isn't up for me.
It's crazy, like the shift, if you think from when our parents were employed back in the day. It was
Right.
like people were, loyal to a company until the day they retired. I mean, my dad was like that.
Yes.
And now it's people stay a couple years, they get what they need, they
Right.
move on to something else, or something was missing, or they use it as a stepping stone. So it's interesting. I haven't dove, far into, all of that, but I do think
Yeah.
sometimes people come into a company, they have a great experience, their first, 6 months, and then they start settling into their role. And then it's like, well, it's not maybe quite what they thought. And you're right. How do I change this? And it's really maybe self-reflecting on what you can.
What have
actually
you
change.
contributed to this situation? Like accepted the offer? I don't know. Like, let's start there. I mean, obviously the organization needs to hold themselves accountable for their part too. But at the same time, it's doing this to tango, right? You have a choice. You have agency in where you work. Absolutely. And I understand some people, there's financial needs and all of that stuff. And that's what I'm talking about, just in terms of like the little stuff, like, there's not enough snacks in the break room. There's not enough, lunch provided. Like I can't, do these basic skills without the right, whatever. It's just, you accepted the job, right?
I think a lot of companies went through change, and this is maybe just more of a gut feeling than really stats. But, with 2020 and some of the changes and people working from home, and then some, are going back into the office full time, that change, I think people in general struggle with change.
Yeah.
It's outside the comfort zone. But it is interesting because I feel like, I don't know with that change, how it reflects, 6 years later.
Yeah.
But the expectations of like, well, I want to work from home full time, and now I have to go back to the office, and we're not getting lunches because we've got to cut back, or I don't know.
Whatever it is. Yeah. There's a season for everything. Also, my other thing I've been thinking about is the wounded children, like your inner wounded self.
Oh, yeah. I've been thinking that up a lot. Because you do bring that trauma over.
It's like, that's not the organization's responsibility to be your therapy. Like, we're not therapists. You know what I mean? Yes, we're in kind. We're humans. We want to be care. We care.
Yeah.
But we're not here to solve, your issues that you experienced, as a child.
I saw an article about that the other day. It's like if you've had, past trauma or things that have happened in a last employer, and then you think if you're going to another employer, it's going to solve it. A lot of times those, I guess, ghosts follow you over. And I should have copied it.
You should have.
But it reminds me a lot
that.
of, what you say is it was like you're oftentimes going to have those same things because it's more internal, not necessarily the external of what you can't control.
Look at yourself. You are the problem. I'm telling you, I'm going to write a post one day. Write
a book.
I'll write a book. The wounded child.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, I have my own, PTSD of past leaders of, I've had it with a past leader, and then, another leader where it's like I just tell myself a story.
That they're doing the same thing.
Yeah. And it's that person doesn't know that.
Yeah.
It's my own internal issue that I have to deal with and get over. And and I've been able to get over a lot of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's confidence, time in a role,
experiences, situations, all of that stuff.
But I've definitely carried things over from other employers. And it's, I have to look at my own self, my own internal issues and getting past that. And, it's helped having leaders that believe in you or it's okay, or they'll kind of walk you through it. Because honestly, I would say it has to be addressed of like, hey, you're spiraling in this area. And so,
right. My mom has a rule. She tells me that if 3 people mention to you something or similar situation, take a look.
Mm-hmm.
Just be curious. Yeah. Ask yourself, like, maybe if it were right, maybe I should ask some questions about why I am acting that way or why I'm behaving that way, or what are the possibilities around that, of those comments being true, not having so high opinions of your opinions. You know what I mean? Like thinking a little bit outward on that. And it really like resonates with me. Like, okay, if I have 3 people are telling me something similar, I should probably take a look at that a little bit deeper and see, okay, how am I impacting that, or what am I doing to, affect that?
Yeah, it's a good rule.
I know that's my soapbox lately. Yeah.
I did hear you tell somebody that recently.
It just is, man. It just is totally, it surfaces itself up, and it does come up in the way we behave and we act. I was rewatching Grey's Anatomy the other day, and I love that show. I am like a honorary PhD doctor because of that show. Like, I know.
Have you gone into the pit?
I would love to go into the pit. I would
or watch
love
the
to.
pit.
Oh my God, absolutely. I haven't watched it yet, but totally I need to get on that. But there was, I forget who it was. I think it was Erika, was her name, the OBGYN. And she's having a conversation with the chief. And she's like crying. She's like in tears. She's like, I have issues with authority, but I need to tell you that this is not okay. And that she was dealing with wounded child stuff. Yeah. Like, she had something in her past life prevented her from being able to communicate with authority. And that's what made her all shaky and crying and stuff like that. And I would just always reflect back on that. Like, it shows itself up as adults, unconsciously, subconsciously, however we experience it. And it does show up again.
And maybe people need to hear that, to know that. Because honestly, I don't, until you've said it, and you've said it for a long time. So I've been aware of it, but I don't know that a lot of people think about that.
Yeah, they should. I'm just kidding.
Listen to Erika.
Listen to me once a month on our ENL Unsupervised. Thanks. Podcast. Subscribe.
Not a PhD.
Yeah, not a PhD, not a lawyer.
Not licensed.
Not licensed. For unlicensed device, come to me. Yeah. Perfect. I am not certified trained. I am not a scientist. I am by any means not anything other than
opinions.
Yeah, opinions. I love it. Oh my gosh, that's perfect. Oh, geez.
So going back to uncontrollable resources.
I love how you totally did that. You just like
go right back into it.
Yeah, you're like
talking about. Just kidding. It's not my thing. Getting back into people uncontrollable resource tactics for that. I mean, I hate to say like communication, but I think, having conversations, there's so many times that I see people just not address it. Something recently that had happened, found out that there was potential of somebody looking to leave, and the manager came to me and was like, hey, is so-and-so still available or interested in joining the company? And I was like, well, I haven't talked to that person, but what's the problem? And, I heard potentially somebody could be making a move. And I'm like, stopped and paused. And like, have you had a conversation with them? Well, no, not yet. Happened so many times.
My favorite.
But it's not. Sometimes is it better to address it, have a conversation, see if you can fix it before it really gets to the point of somebody making a move? Because if you're going to replace that position with somebody else, it becomes a little unstable for the team when they have maybe a new leader or supervisor coming in. Would it make more sense to spend that time trying to see what the issue is? Because a lot of times, honestly, you could probably fix it. The people are at the company for a reason. They want to be there. They like the people that they work with. And so many times at Royal, I hear, I love the people here.
Right.
And it's because we take time to find the right culture fit.
Yeah.
And so that's something that's kind of come up. And even for myself, it's just get out in front of it and have the conversation. What's really, truly, somebody's issue. be approachable, have an open door.
Right. I think too, people blend or confuse like a lot. Like, and I'm going to say like now because I said it, but to be liked, not be like, but to be liked or to like someone. Because I like a lot of people, but I don't work with all of them. Right. And that's on purpose. Like, I've made a choice to not invite them to come apply, right? Because they're so cool at what they do. They wouldn't be cool with us, absolutely. And I think we need to see teams like that as well. Like some of them have, or we hope, right? All of them have potential. You got to look at them for that. Sometimes you walk into a team that you have not built and you have to look at those individuals as people with potential, right? And be open-minded about what they have to offer. And like you said, listen and learn and ask those what and how questions and what makes them, think, in terms of like,
what motivates them.
Yes, absolutely. And then from there, making an assessment, seeing that pattern of, okay, they say they do this. Can they actually produce it? Okay, let's measure that, right? And then you can build off of that to make an assessment of whether or not they're a great fit for what you're trying to do as a organization.
Yeah.
But with that, like you said, it has to be alongside of that. You have to have constant communication. If you set that tone immediately of that, hey, I'm going to check in with you and we're going to have conversations and this is what conversations are going to look like.
Yeah.
And this is what success looks like for me.
And on the flip side, they have to be receptive to it as well.
Have to be receptive. And that doesn't mean that there's not like, they don't have an opportunity to share how they like to receive information either. That's a great opportunity for you to share as an employee. Like, hey, this is all great. I'd like to see maybe a little more structure and how can I ensure that I'm going to meet these goals if I'm unsure of the why? And maybe you can give me more information about that. But you only get that information if you have the conversation. If not, it's all just going to be baseless. It's going to be a story you tell yourself. You're going to making assumptions. And when you make assumptions, you make an ass out of you and me, right? Like that's like the thing.
So I always think too, like even with our own like families or our kids on them being uncontrollable resources of, I mean, you've got 3 kids, I've got 1, yours are littles, mine's, no longer a teenager anymore. And it's still kind of the same thing, that open door communication, having those conversations.
But intentional, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to have your open door and then have like that energy again, that vibe where it's like, oh, I'm not going to go in there. Like that's scary, right? So again, you have to show up willing to engage and have a genuine intentional conversation with somebody. It's not just the niceties.
But the hope that you have a good outcome.
Right. Exactly. You can't just go in and say, hi, how are you doing? No, it's like, hey, I have a question about X, Y, and Z, or I'm curious about this, or, it's building that relationship that I think is hard for people to do initially, which makes it even harder to have hard conversations when you need to have that difficult conversation with someone about lack of performance or need for shift or change or adjustments. And I think too, with that, we forget that certain people have a threshold for change, right?
Yeah.
And some people can have, like us, give me change all day long.
For sure. I feel like there's people always that like 3 strikes you're out.
Yeah, totally. And we have to recognize that, right? Like how much burden have you as a leader been placing on your team?
Yeah.
Right. And be thoughtful of that.
And even what you can control, because I've discovered this recently, like, feeling like I have a good pulse on my team, that I've got the right players in the right seats, and then external, just things happen and, you lose somebody. And so it's, sometimes things are just out of your control.
They're so out of your control. As great as the team is.
That's like one thing I've been like replaying, like what could I have done differently? What,
And there's productive looping too. I guess I didn't talk about that, but that's productive looping, because that's you doing a self-reflection of your impact on that individual and the team, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's productive because you then will learn something from that experience, and then you may adjust and do something different. I guess that's the other thing with communication and setting expectations and being building those relationships as part of these tactics too, is that follow through on that action, right? When it's great and everything if you do all of that stuff, but at the end of the day, if you're not following through and saying what you say you're going to do, that's going to lose that trust, right?
Yeah.
And then you're just going to become noise, and you're going to start seeing that disengagement within your team, and then it's that whole like, oh yeah, that's what she says. She says she's going to look into it, and we're still here, right?
Have you ever noticed, and you probably get this too, when you have layers within your team, they won't come to you for things. You'll hear it from another manager, or I've had it too, where it's like they may have reported to me and then they shift over to Courtney, and then it's like they are so open with them and they weren't as open with me, and it's like, oh, what could I have done differently to make myself more available or more approachable? So I think about that a lot too, just as a leader of making sure that my team can come to me for things.
Right.
That's, I think, pretty important.
That is super important. You're absolutely right, because it is something that at least I do too, where I'm intentional about it. Like, oh shoot, like I need to adjust myself, to speak with a certain individual, because I'm come at people fast sometimes, and they like to slow down, process, think through things. And you're right, I'm maybe not building that space that allows for that process, because I'm machine gunning questions, or asks.
Or I talk too much. The feedback I usually get.
Or you bring it back to yourself.
I know. I talk to myself in my office.
Exactly. Well, I love that. I feel like we, although we went all over the place today, we appreciate you guys being a part of this journey.
Bearing with us.
And our ride. We just had gone through so much, I think, this whole last month.
Yeah. It's been a good month.
It's been so good.
There's been a lot of great things.
Yeah.
Experiences and stuff, but just a lot. I think change is on the mind, just as far as, change and growth with our organization and people settling into their roles. And we've had a lot of high level roles being filled, and how just getting them into a place where they feel like they're, making impact, but also fitting into the culture. It's just, been on a lot of my mind, I guess.
Yeah, same.
Had a feeling we would kind of circle around, go to a lot of different areas and topics, but.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I feel like if we can offer any piece of advice, is building those relationships up front is super important, because as you navigate through that performance management piece of these uncontrollable resources that you have of people.
And everybody has that. Any people business, you're dealing with the same thing. It doesn't matter what industry you're in.
Yeah. From a client perspective or an internal client perspective, it's all over the place. And so if you are able to have that relationship with someone and being able to, set those expectations, and those other conversations will develop naturally or come naturally, and won't be as hard, or will be celebrated, right? And I think that that's the potential takeaway from today's conversation. Anyways, but we're super excited for our next podcast. Yes. We're
headed to Dallas.
We're taking the show on the road. Yep. We're going to be interviewing not only, I think, a very cool coworker, but I think a fun partner and friend that we are excited to just connect with and talk all things people.
Yeah, I was excited he was willing to do it. So we're looking forward to that. And love interviewing people.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thanks for joining. We'll see you next time in Dallas.
Yeah. Bye.